Welcome back to my day trading series where I post all my afternoon trades of the S&P 500 futures. I'm a scalper trying to get 1 point profit per trade, and I attempt to make 3 to 4 successful trades a day. What you're seeing here is a 2000 tick chart of the S&P 500 futures. I started around this time and I typically trade for about 2 hours max, as I do have a day job as well. For the first 10 minutes or so, I like to mark the highs and the lows of the day and draw some trend lines to identify any patterns. Now, when we look at the current trend, it initially went up to test the high and started to sell off around the time the market opened, which is at 2:30 p.m. in the UK. So I start to draw trend lines and just observe what these bars are doing. Are they regularly bouncing off the trend lines? Is the trend bullish or bearish? So these are all questions that we need to answer before we can successfully find a trade setup. So I'm a price action trader, so I only look at what the bars are doing to tell me what is going on here. So I don't use any additional indicators apart from the 21-day moving average. But in general, it looks like a choppy day with these zigzag patterns with no strong directional movement. So in any case, here we are with our first trade setup, which is a two-legged pullback, one of my favorites. So for those who don't know what a two-legged pullback is, prices like to move in pairs of two. So in this particular example, we have a bullish trend, which is prices moving upwards, shown by all these green candlesticks. It pulls back once, then pulls back the second time, and this time it will most likely continue the bullish trend. So here I should have placed the entry just a tick higher than the first bullish bar, but it looks like it will still be able to make that 1 point scalp. I have set up the scale of the chart so that each box here represents 1 point and a quarter of this box is a tick. It just makes it a lot easier for me to see what my targets are and what my stop losses are before I even open a trade. So my stop losses are set to 1 point lower and my target profit is, as I already mentioned, 1 point higher. So we managed to make the first point, $150 profit so far. So for those of you who don't know, 1 point of the S&P 500 is $50. That's if you trade one contract. I'm trading 3 contracts at a time, so that would make me $150 profit, and if you went the other way, $150 loss. So it's been 20 minutes since the last trade, and we are starting to see some resistance along this trend line, and we have a strong bullish bar here, and the second bar also seems to be bullish. Overall, it's a pretty good place to enter for a number of reasons. So one, it's at the bottom of the trend line in a strong bullish trend. There's 2 bullish bars and has the moving average, which is the yellow line, as a line of support as well. But I don't know why, I just didn't quite feel comfortable, so I ended up changing my mind and moved the buy order higher to see how things turn out, but ended up missing a good trade in the end because this bar just jumped a couple of points higher. So I think, yep, it made a 2 point move, so we would have easily made that 1 point scalp that we were looking for. I guess I'm still not that comfortable in taking setups that are not entirely a two-legged pullback yet. It is possible to trade a one-legged pullback, however it's a much more riskier trade. I prefer to only take part in trades that have a very high 95% to 100% success rate, which is why I only get around 4 trades within the 2 hours that I trade. Of course, I miss out a few here and there, but the hope is that I will also improve in this journey to be able to identify more of these trades within the 2 hours that I trade. So a few minutes later, the price started to sell off again. So I redrew the trend lines to adjust to the price movement. So here we can see another 2-legged pullback forming, but this time in a downwards trend. We have our first pullback here, and then the second pullback forming here. And what happens here is a lot of new traders at this point will think that the prices will continue downwards, but they're most likely wrong. The reason for that is because the overall trend seems to be upwards with some resistance shown at the bottom of this trend line. So you cannot just blindly take all 2-legged pullbacks. And this is why it is important to identify and draw these trend lines and pay attention to what the bars are actually doing. The general trend has been bullish so far, and therefore placing a trade at the bottom of this trend line is not the safest trade to make. I mean, you could be lucky and make a 1 point scalp, but what I'm going to do is trap all these new traders by placing a buy order just above this bullish candlestick. So when the price does reverse, all the new traders will start panicking and try to get out as quickly as possible because they got it wrong. And what I'm doing is helping them exit their positions by buying their stop losses, and hopefully we'll also get our 1 point scalp. So this lasted about a minute long, but we still ended up making our 1 point profit, and overall we made another $150 for the day. So now we have a total of $300 for the day, and hopefully we can get 2 more trades in. So straight after that, it was a pretty strong bullish movement with not a single bearish bar. So just to explain a bit about the terminologies here. So a bullish bar is basically when the bar closes at a price higher than where it opened. So they are colored in green. And so a bearish bar is the opposite of that. So when the bar closes at a price lower than what it opened at is a bearish bar and is colored red. So around 30 minutes later, we have our next setup, which was actually kind of an accident. So here I was looking to set up another trap for a downwards 2-legged pull-up that was forming. We have a few bearish bars, then we have our first leg up, and then looks like a second leg up is forming. And as you know by now, I like to stalk for an entry point. And since there was only 85 ticks left according to the tick counter at the bottom here, I didn't expect it to jump quickly, but it seems like there was a strong buying pressure, so it just jumped up and I got entered into the trade because I was too close. But the trade didn't even last 10 seconds and made my 3rd point profit for the day, which is another $150, bringing us to a total of $450 for the day. So that was actually the last trade that I did for that day. I did go on to observe the market for a few more minutes longer, but it was just too choppy with no real conviction in price movement, and I don't really feel confident enough to trade markets when there is no obvious trend lines for the day. When there is an obvious trend and you open trades in the trend's direction, then even if you are wrong sometimes, just the pressure from the trend itself can sometimes help you give that little extra push to make that 1 point scalp. But when you don't have any obvious trends, then it becomes a bit more difficult and tricky to be able to trade as well. So that's it for today. Taking my bank from $2,600 yesterday to $3,050 today. If you're interested in learning more and watch me trade and increase my bank size, please like this video and subscribe for the next episode of live day trading.